trades.
I'm Wardian. I'm the resident space wizard.
Yeah, cool. So, welcome to the fourth episode of Dual Universe Explorers. Well, you guys want to just get into it? I'll throw up the, trailer, and we can. I don't know if you guys have your own, local copies of the trailer or YouTube. Of course, I don't really have a way of sharing this with you in real time, so
Of course.
I'll start up the trailer here. Well, not really trailer. It's more like 10 minutes of gameplay footage, and we'll just let it run in the background. I will I'll lower the volume. Well, actually, no. I'm just gonna mute the trailer, and we'll just let the gameplay footage run in the background, and we can talk about what we think about it. Um, so yeah, with that, let's just get right into the gameplay footage.
I was really, really happy to see this. It was absolutely astounding to see everything in Dual Universe put in perspective. We never have seen this before, and I really think it's actually going to give us more information in the future as well.
Well, it answered a few of my questions just seeing the video. I always wondered what we could do with just the resources that we can pick up from the ground and such. And now I know I can actually just move dirt around and build things out of dirt even, which is great. I'm wondering how, if they're going to put any structural limitations on certain substances, like I can only build something so high if it's made out of dirt or wood or stone.
That makes sense. Yes, indeed.
Of course, when IGN put this up, I think there was a couple of complaints that came out the first couple of days that IGN published it under the title, "Look at this No Man's Sky style game," and of course, people were.
I was one of those people that complained about that. Every time somebody sits there and says "Dual Universe," it's like another No Man's Sky. I'm like, punch yourself.
The funniest thing, though, and this was pointed out to me by Universal G and those over at Hammer Time, is that it was actually listed as the No Man in games. It was listed under No Man's Sky under YouTube Games, and so yeah, obviously we know what IGN was trying to do.
Clickbait.
Yeah, well, at the very least, even if it was clickbait, it still got people talked about the game and looking at it. Clearly, it's not going to be a No Man's style kind of game for many reasons.
Including that No Man's Sky might not even come out now.
Well, maybe they were just trying to say that this game that is in alpha and No Man's Sky, have about the same amount of content.
That is true.
Well, I don't know. I'll definitely be playing No Man's Sky when it comes out. Of course, I have it pre-ordered. I'm into space games, so I want to play.
I have also pre-ordered it. I'm getting the fact that I may not ever get to play it now.
Well, I don't know. That company that owns the patent on the super formula, they said that they weren't going to try to stop No Man's Sky from coming out. They're more interested in collaborating with No Man's Sky or Hello Games than they are suing them.
Yeah, at least that's good. But back to the trailer. One of the impressive things about this was that they actually showed us the potential of what you can build with voxels. Specifically, that it's not going to be any limit. We got an 8-kilometer space station orbiting a planet, showing us that we can actually build something gigantic to our most strangest and craziest ideas and put it up anywhere we want.
Oh yeah, I mean it was clearly they have a lot of work to do. I mean I'm not gonna fluff it and say that the game alpha is perfect right now, but things like textures, when he dug into the hole in the ground and he was like, this is a copper deposit, like clearly that it's going to need some texturing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I personally wonder, like, if we're going to encounter situations like, where did this planet go? Oh, we mined it into nothing. Literally nothing. It's all a giant spaceship now moving through space.
Yep, someone is going to try that within the first couple of weeks. I can guarantee you that.
I believe somebody actually brought it up, like on a forum post, that they're wondering if we're going to wind up destroying the way certain planets will look just because we mine the hell out of them. You know, they just look like hollowed out balls of dirt.
Yeah. And, something that I found interesting in this trailer, it's back around the 8-minute mark. He mentions that you can see the Ark ship from space. Then he mentioned that the rendering system actually supports you being able to build whatever you want. And if it's big enough, you'll be able to see it from basically any distance. That is awesome.
Yeah, so it was definitely exciting. I mean, I got a real Star Citizen kind of feel out of it, which I mean that in a positive, not really a negative. But yeah, just the whole, taking off and, flying in real time to the space station. It showed that at least the E3 trailer was real footage, that it wasn't pre-rendered or whatever. This is all real time stuff.
Indeed.
I mean, compared to some games that I'm playing lately, like Empyrean and
Pulsar.
Into Space is another one of these games that I bought on Steam lately. Just compared to games like that, this is definitely way more advanced than that. Definitely, years ahead of that kind of stuff.
It's practically even a year or so ahead of Space Engineers at this rate. Definitely better multiplayer.
That's not actually saying much. I mean, I love Space Engineers, but you can only go so far with that game before you break it.
Yep. Yeah. It needs to be coded better.
Well, this video also, it's actually about to come up in the stream where a lot of people have been bringing up collisions. I don't know if this is how they're going to finalize the way the collision system works, but he actually tries to land right next to another one of the ships, and it prevents him from colliding with it, the in-game engine.
And if you notice, when he landed, it was there was actually 2 other ships, I think, on the dock or on the station. And my feeling or my thoughts are that they probably ran through this, like, rehearsed it twice. And that's why those ships are just sitting up there. He probably flew up here once or twice just to, see what.
Well, he did say he was a bad pilot.
That's true. This footage here of him walking around inside the station is pretty awesome. The description he gave of, like, these monitors up here are going to be customizable. You're going to be able to script this kind of stuff so that you can, handle things like docking request and fuel and shields and all sorts of parts of your station.
He also brought up that those meshes that are decorating the inside of the hallways that are showing right now are optional. So it's not something that automatically gets put up. And that was a concern to some people. Some people just wanted it. They didn't want it to look incredibly fancy.
I mean, I think it's going to be cool one day, to have, a command room, like it's shown in the trailer here, and, have 10 people sitting around all working on different parts of the station, like one guy or 2 people that do nothing but, kind of work like airport traffic controllers, just taking docking requests and really telling ships where to land and whatnot.
Yeah, that would definitely work out pretty well. And I think I fixed my microphone.
Welcome back. Kind of nearing the end of the trailer here. He goes into God mode and he zooms out just to kind of show the scale of the whole thing. And I gotta wonder if that station, if they just kind of hollowed out the hallways that he needed in the station to kind of show the trailer, or if they've actually spent the time to design that whole station.
Definitely interesting.
Well, believe it or not, they actually design ships that way in real life. They'll actually place rooms and such, and then they'll cut doors and hallways into the ships where the ship needs to go.
And then we're kind of nearing the end of the trailer right now. I'll pause it just to kind of give a sense of scale here when he zooms out a bit.
Yeah. Another thing I just like to point out here is that it just it looks so smooth. You don't notice a drop in quality with the textures or even the poly count, the detail of the station.
I really like
from today's technology.
I really like as he's looking at it from different angles. There's kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for here? There's like the light. There's like the rainbowish light diffraction coming off the side of the planet, the right side there.
Like lens flare effects?
Yeah, kind of like, I don't know if it's a lens flare. I guess it's lens flare. But yeah, I mean, it gives it a sense of, there actually being an atmosphere there on the planet. And some other detail that I kind of glossed over before was the clouds there on the planet. Are those static clouds, or is there actually a weather pattern going on? Because the way that they're shaped is somewhat complex.
Weather on planets, that's an idea for you. Natural disasters.
Optical flare, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Well, from the way the video plays, it seems, right now at least, that like when he was on the planet, you didn't really see any clouds up in the sky, and so that seems more like an additional layer that just gets laid over as you go a certain distance.
Well,
I'm not saying that's fact. That's the way it looks.
If you look at the station, because he flew straight up to the station, it kind of looks like there are no clouds above him anyways. They may have done that on purpose.
I can see that.
They may have done that on purpose, though, because he did want to show everybody how close the station was. Like, hey, we moved the station closer to the planet so you can see it, just to give you a sense of scale.
I just realized something else. If you look, actually, in some of the pictures for Duel, let's see. Yes, I am getting this correctly. So if you look at the first trailer, you can actually see clouds, the teaser trailer from E3. If you look closely at the teaser trailer from E3, you can actually see clouds for sure.
Oh yeah, there's clouds up around the mountains.
Yeah, you can see that the mountains, at least in this gameplay footage, the mountains are above the cloud layer. So
yeah, so it definitely actually seems like there were clouds, and it wasn't just an additional layer. Whether they actually do anything at this point, I highly doubt it. But
it doesn't look like the physical environment there, like the mountains are actually affecting the cloud flow, because it looks like the mountains are just cutting through, kind of like the way Minecraft works once you build above the cloud layer.
Yeah. And now that we're actually on the subject, if you take a look, there's definitely some fog, especially on the Mars-like planet when he's landing. So there definitely are different types of, at least, visibility factors. Maybe you'll be flying, and you'll accidentally go into a cloud and fly your ship into a mountain. That'd be quite interesting and depressing.
Weather is definitely a must-have. Like, you can't have tons and tons of planets without different weather effects. Now, how detailed that weather is, who knows?
If it says rain, storms, acid rain, volcanoes, I'm fine.
Well,
That's
he's already
all we need.
The developers have already mentioned that they plan on having planets where you show up there and it's a hostile planet, but the longer it's under territory control, it slowly gets converted over like it's being terraformed. At least that's the plan. Whether or not they decide to continue with that plan, because it's just, I guess it's how you put it. How do they put it in earmark or?
Playing the trailer a little bit more, I noticed that there's some other things. You know, I moved the trailer up a little bit. Down at the bottom right of the screen, or bottom left of the screen, it looks like, I don't know if that's a space station, another space station, or if that is a giant ship.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
More and more questions.
It looks like it's the same shape as the space station they have next to the planet. Like they just copied it.
Playing along a little bit further, if this is the starting region, I gotta wonder if those moons? Are those separate planets? Because they're rather close to each other.
Moons would be a must-have. That's no doubt.
From what I remember, that when they were talking about this particular video, they said that planet was there to show that it's actually another planet, not just a skybox.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of great stuff in this trailer. But I don't know. You guys want to hit up the AMA questions now? Just move along.
Of course.
Actually, mention something real quick about the trailer.
Sure.
Where you had it paused last, that must be a moon because it doesn't have the optical flare that the planets have. Probably hinting at there's no atmosphere around it.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well,
that pretty much covers the first question, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that does.
Well, moving along.
AMA time.
AMA time. Monday, we're only going to have 4 questions today because Monday's AMA question was superseded by the gameplay footage coming out, which I would argue answered quite a bit of questions. But who wants to hit the first AMA question for Tuesday? Don't all jump up at once.
I guess I'll do it.
All right.
That's question 15, right?
Question 14.
14?
14.
When we will see some gameplay footage?
Yes. Yeah, I guess we can skip over that question.
Right. So, question 15. Since there will be creation, destruction, and multiplayer interaction, some very negative actions can happen. When somebody joins the clan, this person can destroy or steal ships, bases, stations owned by the organization. As a result, inviting new members into the organization will be a huge risk. I guess all organization members will have all the information about the organization locations. Also, defense systems will not attack these players because they are friendly, but their actions can be interpreted as building or rebuilding. Do you plan to secure players from friendly harassment? P.S. Question is not about how would you do that, but will you try to secure? And their answer is, in any game involving PvP and or territory control, this is a recurrent question. What if the new player freshly recruited is a spy or someone who wants to sabotage the organization? On this level, what the dev team can do is to give the players the tools to be careful and make sure this will enable them to give limited powers to newcomers, powers that would be gradually increased as the new member proved their trustworthiness. This is the goal of the RDMS, Rights and Duties Management System. The dev team won't try to secure all the organizations ourselves, as this would limit the freedom of administrating an organization. However, the tools will be given to the players to secure their organizations themselves. Of course, there will be some elementary security parameters set by the default when a player will create an organization, but don't expect it to be perfect right from the start to prevent any problem related to a player betrayal. As it's not possible in advance to know how each organization will be administrated, it's equally not possible for the dev team to anticipate all the loopholes that could come from a specific manner to administrate an organization.
This one, I really enjoyed this one.
Yes, this is basically talking about all the same problems that ever happened for anybody who's played EVE.
Indeed. And I've already had possible spies try to get into the DOA, and I know that there is a spy in a number of organizations already. So it's a bit worrying for those trying to manage large organizations at the moment.
Oh yeah,
Well-
Cops is going to realize.
Oh my
I
god.
won't spoil anything, but I will say that I might have an alt or two in Cops.
Everyone might have an
Jesus.
alter doing Cops. Uh, uh,
I like that. You can't really prevent against spying and whatnot completely.
No.
Like you always got to have a level of screening people who apply to join your organization. And as an organization gets larger, the angles that you can attack it just increase.
increase and increase. Yep.
You got a lot more surface area to protect.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've just caused a whole lot of ruckus in Cops, by the way.
I think that may have been the point.
Yeah. Well.
I think they're mostly our viewer base.
Well,
The person-
Sorry, Cops.
Whoever says they're not a spy is lying. That's I guess that comes from EVE Online world. Everybody in EVE is a spy.
I guess I'm a spy too.
Yep, we're all
Yeah.
spies.
I feel like if someone wants to do something to the organization bad enough, they'll take the time.
Oh yeah.
Actually,
It's no
I had-
doubt.
I had that experience in ARC. We had a guy in the tribe for like 4 months, and then he just started doing stuff to kind of tear it down. He was in it for the
wow.
he was in it for the long con.
I remember reading
Shut
a
down your
story
automatic
about.
guns.
I read a story about a guy in EVE who was really, really angry at someone who played EVE. She was apparently some famous alliance leader, some famous organization leader, and he paid a group quite a lot of in-game money, like billions of ISK, if they could do one
Ooh.
thing for him. He said he wanted he wanted her body, her frozen corpse, which is dropped when you destroy a ship in EVE, and he wanted a ship of hers destroyed. It was a very
Oh.
specific ship, though. Like, apparently only a handful of these exist in the game. Like, 4 or 5 of these ships are even present in the game. And he paid
Oh.
billions to a spying organization to spend, I think it was like 6 or 8 months they spent getting into that org.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
They
it
did
can
it.
get pretty deep.
That's dedication.
I can imagine.
I mean, when there's billions of ISK on the line, I mean, that becomes the game. Like, the game for you at that point is not, mining or, fighting or being in PvP combat or managing a large organization. Like, your game is spying. And you have to put on a different persona. You've got to be friendly to them. Like, you have to pretend like you're somebody else. And you got to do it for months and months and months.
Yeah. I'd have to change my voice because this iconic voice will not go away. Being
But I
sarcastic,
like
of
that.
course.
I like that they're not like, completely coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to prevent all of that. What they're saying is, we're giving you the tools so that you can have some sort of access restrictions, but, we're not eliminating
You
that
have
kind
to
of
do
gameplay.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
don't use them, that's on you.
Well, even if you use them, like EVE has certain access restrictions, but the whole Band of Brothers incident happened because one person who had access to their organization as a whole, the Alliance, abolished the Alliance.
Ooh.
It only takes one person. It just takes one
Yeah.
person with so much access, and one person that you've trusted for several months. 6 months. You've become friends with this person, and you trust them with taking care of the corporation while you're gone, or at night. And all
The
it
funny
takes
thing is-
one person.
Funny thing is, that incident, that guy wasn't even a spy. He just got bought off.
Oh yeah, I think they did something to anger him. I don't remember the
Yeah.
whole story. Was that it? Did they anger him somehow?
Yeah. Yeah, he'd been belittled somehow by other members of the Alliance, and but he still had all this control. And so the people that were attacking that alliance, the Band of Brothers, paid him off to betray his entire alliance. And boy, did he manage it.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Well,
I can only imagine.
I guess moving on, Q&A 16. Who wants to take this one?
I'll go ahead and take this one.
Cool.
All right. So, are the elements going to be accessible to everyone, or will they need to be obtained or unlocked in some way? If it's the latter, how would the elements be unlocked? Had to do some interpreting there. Finding and scanning them, research trees, skill trees, purchasing them. And the response is, keep in mind this aspect of the game is still in early development, so what is explained below can change significantly through the game development. To start with, elements are crafted by players. The skill tree will involve subparts that will define what kind of element you are capable to craft. You will also obviously need to appropriate raw materials, 3D printer and assembly to perform the crafting itself, which might also involve other skills to acquire. Note that the 3D printers and assembly are elements that you can craft too. The simplest of the elements can be directly crafted with the nanoformer that you will always have with you. Once you have crafted an element, you may decide to use it or to sell it. So, other people might acquire elements without necessarily being able to craft them. Using a particular element will involve other skills that you need to acquire. So, crafting or owning an element and using an element are two different things that have their dedicated parts in the skill tree. At the beginning of the game, after launch and sometime after that, we will most likely introduce NPC sellers to enable players to buy elements directly from the markets.
So we know, I guess, based on this, that there are NPCs coming in some capacity.
Yeah.
True. It also tells us something of how they want the skill system to work. Whether or not that remains true. But you'll definitely have some people that are able to build components but not necessarily be able to use them.
Kind of like Eve. You know, you spend a lot of time training to be an industrialist in Eve, building stuff, and you can't always fly what you're building.
Very true. My only concern with this type of gameplay is, just like in most games where they have this increased complexity like that, in the beginning, everything seems really slow. You know, unless you have a great deal of cooperation between a multitude of players, you know, you focus on this, you focus on this, you focus on this, you're always going to be sitting there going, just not advancing as quickly as I'd want it to. I'm not able to do what I want to yet.
Oh, yeah. I like that, though. I like that, you know, you kind of have to specialize. Specialization, to me, is the backbone of any economy. And, you know, it kind of forces people to have to work together, too. Like, you can't just do everything by yourself. You have to work with somebody. You have to go in the market and buy something from someone who put in the work to do that.
I agree.
If you want to do it efficiently.
Right. I agree with all those points. My only concern is you do definitely limit the type of player base you get when you build a game like this. If you go along that route. You know, it's only going to appeal to a relatively small percentage of players.
On the other hand, though, while it is a small handful of players, it's also a dedicated handful of players.
Very true.
And I also think, you know, even if it is kind of a niche game in the beginning, where you have, you know, maybe it does kind of limit the player base at the beginning, but I think it only applies at the beginning. Once you've got these things created, and once it's at the point where people will no longer have to, you know, mine for however many hours and get their own resources up, once they're able to get enough in-game money to acquire these resources without having to go the longer route, you know, then I think that, you know, because they're saying you don't have to be able to make the thing to use it. I think that once people get going in the game, if you join it a little bit later, you're going to be able to play it. It's going to be a little more friendly later on. The beginning is going to be a little more rough.
Good stuff. I think it's kind of touches on what we've just discussed in previous episodes. Having to specialize and focus on doing different things. Like there will be the builders, and there will be the PvP people, and of course there's going to be a mix in between. If you want to be a jack of all trades, there's nothing stopping you but time. How much time are you willing to invest in your character to be a jack of all trades? Or I'm probably going to get something thrown at me for bringing this up again. But the multi-boxing or multi-account aspect, if I own 2 accounts, maybe one account is someone who trains purely in construction skills, and the other account is someone that trains purely in flying and combat skills.
Indeed.
And then everyone hated Yammer for the next week.
Yeah. Welcome, Shadow.
Hello.
Oh, if nobody else wants to take the last question, 17.
I will.
Do you want it? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. 17, the quote for Friday the 22nd of July. The quote reads, well, we have
Alcubierre.
Alcubierre warp bubbles. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Alcubierre.
And Probability Drive. Alcubierre, okay. ABS-C style jump drive. A whole new FTL trope never before seen in sci-fi. What other kind of FTL capabilities will game provide? And what are the implications of said FTL technique? Will there be a hyperspace dimension to travel through? And it goes on to say, we have in mind to introduce FTL drives at some point. We want to gamify this notion, to make FTL drive a central element of a large ship infrastructure. You can imagine being heavily damaged during battle and unstable to flee because the FTL drive is destroyed or scrambled. Which would start a race to repair and escape. Some people in the ship crew would most likely be dedicated to maintenance of the FTL drive, no matter what. To clarify, the goal of the FTL drive is to allow your ship to do interplanetary travel. Interstellar travel will be the realm of stargates, which is another matter evidently. Entirely. FTL is just a super fast speed with something like the Alcubierre.
Let's just skip that word. Yeah.
Things. Alcubierre warp tubes and underlying tech. And stargates are about instant travel between 2 nodes, with something like wormholes as the underlying tech. We are not yet sure whether ships in FTL mode will have a physical presence on the server side. It will effectively travel in some hyperspace and can be intercepted. If they will travel effectively in some hyperspace, it can be intercepted.
This kind of touches on a topic that I brought up a couple of weeks ago in the forums. Some sort of hyperspace dimension, hyperspace travel. Of course, they said they're not sure if that's going to happen, and I guess that's what we're not sure whether a ship in FTL mode will have a physical presence on the server side.
It seems like they're saying Stargates are definitely not going to have that, though. It's just going to be point-to-point, like instant travel between those two.
It kind of reminds me of like being in warp mode in Star Trek, and while you're in warp, another ship can, still intercept you in warp mode as long as they can catch up to you. I think this is a pretty interesting question. It does clarify that there is a stark difference between a Stargate and faster than light. They say interstellar travel will be the realm of Stargates. So what that tells me is that, there is a clear difference between traveling between 2 planets and traveling between 2 solar systems.
Well, they would have to, otherwise there's no real need for FTL drives. If I can always go from point to point by just building a Stargate, why would I ever build an FTL drive?
Well, I guess my angle on this is that
in the first place,
I kind of see it the opposite when they say something like this. I think it means like, there is definitely always going to be a need for Stargates. Like if you want to go from if you want to take FTL mode to a different solar system, that is something that's going to take a long time to do versus just getting in a Stargate and getting there instantly.
I still have the the question of, are Stargates just for ships? Are you going to be able to build one small enough to walk through?
You mean
Well, if
just
you
like
can build it on a
personal
planet, then you can
teleportation?
walk through it no matter how big it is, most likely.
Right. They're kind of like the Stargate series. They dial
Well,
it in,
if you watch
walk through it.
Atlantis, they're both big enough for small fighter type ships, and you can walk through them all the time.
Oh, right.
I suppose that will depend on if they make it something scalable. You know, if it's you build it out of voxels and then somehow convert that structure into a gate, or if it's just a pre-made structure.
Well, if it's pre-made, I would hope it's scalable.
I hope that they implement some sort of hyperspace so that when you're in FTL mode, like you can have two ships traveling, faster than light, but still in the middle of combat. And I think I'm just imagining a situation where you're chasing somebody who's trying to run from you in hyperspace, and you knock out their warp drive in the middle of FTL mode, and they just get dropped out of FTL mode in the middle of nowhere.
I would hope you're not falling behind them then.
Yeah, just smash into them because you're going too fast. No, and
Could be interesting.
The whole topic of
an awful lot of planning, though.
Well, I mean, the reason I touch on that is because of the whole topic of needing a crew that is dedicated to maintaining the FTL drive no matter what. So that tells me that FTL travel is not something that's in the realm of a fighter ship or a small jet or small vehicles. It tells me that FTL mode is something that requires a large ship because it's going to require the crew to actually maintain the drives.
And a lot of power.
Kind of like in Star Trek, like in Star Trek, the shuttlecraft don't have the ability to go into warp. Like the only things that can go into do shuttlecraft in Star Trek go into warp?
There's a few of them that can actually go into warp. They're rarer than regular shuttlecraft, though.
So, okay. Well, I guess I just never saw those episodes.
Have you ever seen Voyager?
Some of Voyager. I watched the first couple of
Delta
episodes.
Flyer in Voyager is a warp-capable shuttlecraft.
I just threw open my mouth a little.
They're more known as like the pilot or the captain's yacht usually.
Are they big or are they small?
They're small. They're usually able to fit a few more people than regular shuttlecraft, though.
I wonder how big the warp drives are in that. I'm also thinking of Star Trek. What's the movie with the Borg?
First Contact, I think.
First Contact. In First Contact, when they go back in time and then they meet the professor who actually built the first warp drive, that ship wasn't a big ship.
No, but that was also a warp drive thrown together out of scrap, basically.
So
it was also built out of a missile.
I gotta wonder what their angle is on this then. Like, will there be warp drives small enough so that you don't constantly have to be maintaining it? Or will warp drives completely be in the realm of large ships where you need a dedicated crew to take care of it?
Well, even in Star Trek, the big warp drives, you don't need to constantly maintain those. You should be, but they will function by themselves without maintenance for a while at least.
Well, I'm just going off their answer here, which is some people in the ship crew most likely will be dedicated to the maintenance of the FTL drive no matter what. So I guess it depends on how you interpret that.
Be a giant multi-part construct.
I think a lot of it has to do with the idea that they want to give you a reason to build big ships and have large crews. If the only option for FTL travel is on a larger ship, and that's a necessity, it makes having to crew them also a necessity.
And what will maintenance of something like that be like? Will it be like a mini game, or will it actually be running around having to repair stuff and replace pipes or whatever?
I hope so.
Or maybe a mixture.
I would
of
like
both.
the running around because that would force people to build their ships so pipes and such is accessible.
I'd like a little bit of both, like where there's some sort of maybe even a Lua component involved in it, where like people are having to fix code or execute programs in order to get the drives back online.
Or reroute power through a different route if the main cables have been destroyed somehow.
Oh yeah, and the idea that you're going to have to skill up in that specific area. Like, I'm a warp drive engineer, so that is my role in the game. If you have a warp drive on your ship, you have to have warp drive engineers.
I'm kind of wondering if you're gonna have to have some sort of like not really structural integrity of your ship, but a ship of a certain strength to be in FTL. Because if not, it'd be kind of cool to just like take smaller ships and just drop them off the ship at the right time for them to fall out of FTL at a place for PvP.
Oh yeah.
So this is definitely one of those things where when they gave us the answer, they also gave us a whole lot more questions.
I don't know. Just on the surface, just based on that information, it sounds awesome. Like, having to have a crew take care of your FTL drive. That, just on the surface, sounds awesome. So, well, I guess that is the end of our AMA, or the AMA section. I guess we could just talk about the game now. And if anybody in Twitch chat has any questions, feel free to bring them up. And yeah. I see Cyborg sitting up there in the lobby. Should we bring him down into chat?
Sure, why not?
Sure. All right.
Of course, he can't hear us.
Well, he muted himself.
Well, whenever he shows up, he can introduce himself.
Indeed.
So, any fun conversations from the forums this week? Anything I've missed? I've kind of laid low this week.
I could bring you all the drama, but no, nothing.
Nothing profound.
I haven't seen any greatly profound or new topics that have popped up. Usually it's as I discussed earlier, it's the usual stuff. What subscription model are they using? What's graphical programming? Food and water.
Fields.
I guess currency.
It was a currency name. They wanted to know what everyone thought the name would be.
And then it's devolved into, is there even going to be currency?
Yes, we know this.
Will it be faction-based?
I had a little bit of time.
We know that already, too.
I thought that they answered a question somewhere in the past about creating your own currencies, and they said, like, it won't be an option.
They did. It was on one of the threads, I think. I think it's more they just want to keep control of it. Because if we have a Plex system, everyone creating their own currency just won't work.
Exactly. And then the question is, like, how do you distribute a global currency? Well, if there's NPC vendors and they're only in the ARC ship area, does that mean whoever controls that area effectively controls the market?
That could be an aspect of gaming. Whether or not we would like that, I have no idea.
I guess if I want to comment on anything this week, it's going to be the graphical programming thread. And the comments that I have, of course, I already posted this in the forum, but I'm not going to make any friends with my opinion. And that is, please, for the love of God, don't make that the programming system. Like, please don't dumb down the mechanic of how you program just to cater to people who don't know how to program, because that cheapens the skill that you have as a programmer in the game. Like, if you want something programmed in the game, I think that you should have to go to a programmer, somebody who has that skill. It shouldn't just be something that anybody can do, or it should be easy enough for anybody who doesn't want to learn how to do it. I think that that's a level of expertise that you should be rewarded for.
Indeed.
I will say this much on this subject: if they were to include a graphical programming interface, that is always going to be limited because whenever you do something like that, the only things that you will then be able to program in is whatever options that the developers give you. You know, you're always going to be limited by that.
Now,
no
I can
matter
see
what.
something like when I say node-based programming, I'm talking about Unreal Engine node-type programming, not Node.js. So I can imagine a system like a node-based programming system where you actually have to write the nodes, and then the graphical aspect is actually just, dragging and dropping a line between two nodes and connecting the flow of functions.
I could see that working for like control panels.
Yeah, that would definitely be. It would give them at least. It would give people who are not well versed in programming an option to do something with their DPUs, and
that would also give you the whole. They said they were going to provide some sort of example code or some sort of baseline code. So yeah, like if you just wanted to use those nodes and drop them, drag and drop them like that, that would be perfect. Because it still gives the angle for programmers to customize and make way more advanced nodes. Or maybe not even dig into that system and just write code.
Then
Well, programmers make the nodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you could secretly code in a self-destruct button that they don't realize is there.
I just don't think that the programming aspect should necessarily cater too much to people who don't want to learn about programming.
Right.
Well, I kind of hope that you can do control everything with programming. But if you can't, I get why you wouldn't be able to.
I imagine, I don't want to dig it up right now, but I know WoW has a Lua API, and it's pretty well documented. I want something like that. I want a nice thick book of the API commands.
well, those have their own limitations when they put them in like that. Because yes, you can have all the API commands, but there's a limitation to how many you can put into a scripting macro. There's an actual limit to how many characters you can put in at any one point.
Yeah, but that's what multiple codes are for.
True.
Yes, multiple classes, multiple programs, multiple scripts. Many
Everything
ways.
just kind of interacting with each other.
What I also want is I want a way for, if my station's under attack, for it to be able to tell the other ships in the area that it's under attack without me needing to, go in, do stuff, then send a message out to everyone. Like if all its guns have been destroyed or something, it should be able to tell the other ships.
Right. This is when it comes down to talking about graphical programming, food and water, all these different topics that seem to just keep on going on forever. It always comes down to the reasons that people want an easier interface is because they want it to be more accessible, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
My problem is accessibility like that kind of leads me to believe that some of the people who want some of these things are not doing it, to make it easier for everybody. They want it because they don't want to have to interact with people. It just is another angle to remove the necessity to have to go find somebody who knows how to do something.
I agree. There are probably people like that, but there are probably just as many people who just want, they want to be able to play with this aspect of the game without actually, having to learn how to be a programmer. And I can understand that. But at the same time, I also understand that DU is making a certain kind of game. And this may not be the game for you.
I mean,
yeah.
It also comes from a misunderstanding of what Lua is capable of. Lua is not C++ or Java or whatever. No. Lua is very easy. It is. There's a reason that Lua is used in World of Warcraft. It's a very easy scripting language.
I learned it as a kid. It was so simple.
Is it a scripting language? It's an interpreted language, is it not?
It's a scripting language. It's also an actual programming language. It's a versatile language, but at the same time, it's so easy.
It was technically made as a config type script?
I went through out of boredom the other night, and I dug through the European Patent Registry, looking for any patents that maybe NovaCorp has filed. And while I didn't find any patents from NovaCorp, I found several patents from JC Valley. How do you say his last name? Anybody? JC?
One of my friends told me, and I don't remember now.
Daly?
Just call him JC.
Yeah.
JC. I'm sorry. I don't. Yeah. Anyways, JC has several patents, the CEO of NovaCorp. And one of those patents was filed in 2008. And, well, I won't go into exactly what the patent is. I will leave it up to the viewers to go and dig around the European Patent Registry to find the patents that I'm talking about. But there was one filed in 2008, and I thought to myself, maybe this belonged to Ghostai. Ghostai was the company that apparently he started around that time period to fund, or I guess maybe not fund, profit, lead take over the development. Anyways, their product was Irby. And Irby is I guess it's a framework, it's a tool. Irby has different components, but I think the most important component is Irby script. So that's what I'm going to get at here. Irby script is a language that was built for robotics and AI. But it was built to parallelize tasks to different components of AI or different robotics, different, I guess, robots. I myself don't understand Irby script completely. I went through the README of Irby script, but in the very beginning of the README, it says that it was developed for AI and robotics. However, there's different applications possible, such as video games. So it tells me, at the very least, JC, who invented this language, JC was thinking about video games and ways to scale up and parallelize tasks across the board. And when he talks about NovaCorp, or when he talks about Dual Universe, and he's talking about his server tech, he said that he had the idea brewing around in his head for several years. And it was only in 2013, I believe, that he decided to start NovaCorp. I think it was 2013. So 5 years prior, in 2008, there's a patent on automated task, I guess. And I'm not sure because I can't read French, and anybody who can read French, please read the patent to give me your thoughts on what the patent actually is. But based on the surface description of it, either it has to do more with robotics, or it has to do with Irby, or it has to do, which it may have to do with the server tech.
Give me the link. I'll tell you.
Can you read French? I'll take your silence as a.
As a note, hey guys, just really quick, Neo's got to get going.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks
So
for having
see
me.
you later.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you for
See you,
joining
Neo.
us. Okay.
Yeah.
Wardian, I am going to. Okay, so I sent you the patent that I'm talking about.
Okie doke.
And I'll just read the patent out right now. It says, the method involves acquiring parameters and executing functions based on the parameters during action cycle by automatically segmenting instructions into microcycles by a scheduler, where the instructions are related to the functions. The scheduler belongs to a computing hub different from a hub of an operating system. The in microcycles of each instruction and the in microcycles of non-accomplished instructions are executed by the computing hub of a hardware equipment during a preceding action cycle. And there's a nice flowchart that just kind of goes into it. The description, the abstract, is clearly a bit confusing. But I gotta wonder, does this have to do with the server tech? Is this what he's...
Keep in mind that he started out as an AI and robotics guy. So a lot of the patents that you will see from him have nothing to do with the game.
Well, that's what I thought. But I looked up some of the patents, of his other patents, and they belong to the robotics company that acquired Ghost Eye. So those patents went to them. However, this patent didn't. This is the one patent that didn't go to them. This is the one patent that's still in his name.
An error has occurred, not found. Thanks for that link.
I could see it being used for server tech, though, especially if it's something for an AI running.
Yeah, it works for me in general chat.
Obviously, he's trying to actually make his DPUs a reality.
I posted the link in general chat if anybody else wants to look at it.
I got an error has occurred as well.
I wonder why that link works for me.
The link works fine for me.
That's weird. So it works for some people, not other people?
Yeah, that is interesting.
Are you looking at the patent?
Yes.
Even when I try and search for it through the actual search system, it gives me an error.
What browser are you using?
Google. Chrome.
Oh, I'm using Firefox. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
I'm using
I'll
Chrome.
check it out.
There's the number I posted. Yeah, just interesting. It would make sense to me why they wouldn't keep a patent under NovaQuark. Maybe to keep it secret. But at the very least, it tells me that he was thinking about scaled architectures and breaking up tasks at the very least and parallelizing work amongst.
Yeah, it's my Google Chrome.
Into an infrastructure.
Google Chrome doesn't like it.
Interesting.
It's trying to stop you from seeing information. Google's censoring you.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So, if you're looking at it, what are your thoughts on it?
I understand nothing.
The bookmark says,
look at it.
hardware equipment, e.g. automation, controlling method for leisure field involves exceeding microcycles of each instruction and microcycles of non-accomplished instructions by computing hub during preceding action cycle.
Cool.
Yeah, based on that description, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything, but it's...
It's basically is saying that you have a hub that runs the hardware, and then you have the software that's running on a separate system, and and there are parameters that it will follow based on what the hardware is receiving compared to what the software says. I don't know if that makes any more sense for you.
Not at all. At one angle, this sounds to me like some of the tech behind the server architecture. On the other hand, this could have to do more with Irby. But the other thing about Irby is that Irby script is open source now. So it tells me, why does this patent exist if the language and the work is open sourced?
To me, it really just sounds like a distribution of work.
Yeah, this has more to do with robotics than.
Well, when you say distribution of work, that sounds like server architecture to me too.
Well, there's going to be a lot related between the two,
right?
Sure.
I did look through the non-accepted patents. There's two types of patents. There's basically the patents that have been accepted and are actual patents, and then there's the patents that are in review, because a patent has to go through so many stages of review before it actually gets accepted. There's like the whole period where like you can claim like prior artwork on a patent. You can make claims against the patent. So they have to go through like a public review period, etc. But I went through the search engine looking for stuff, and I didn't find anything that's in review. So I don't know, just something to think about. Kind of interesting to me. I also went through their GitHub, which is public. which surprised me because I don't know if anybody else thought to go looking for their GitHub.
I didn't. So you said something.
There's just like some basic stuff in there. It's not actual game code clearly, but it's like Erlicht, the game engine Erlicht. Just various components, I guess, that they're using, which explains why it's public. There's nothing. What's the word I'm looking for here? There's nothing, I guess, that would be secret for them to keep secret in any of the stuff that's in their GitHub. So yeah, that's what I do when I'm bored on the weeknights. Is I go digging around the internet looking for information that is not something you would find on the surface.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess we covered plenty of drama in previous episodes, stuff like subscription model, food and water, and our thoughts on that stuff. Are there any topics that you guys specifically want to touch on? I probably missed some questions here in Twitch chat, so I will scroll back in Twitch chat and see if I see anything.
There's nothing. Yeah.
I had actually talked to Yamamushi a few days ago about this. Earlier in the week, I was doing the math to come up with a possible number for population density based on a few different numbers of people that might be playing the game and size of the planet. Basically, a planet with a 100 radius diameter, 100 kilometer radius that had, I think it was 250,000 people at the start, and the planet also had the same as Earth, has 29% dry land. 30,000 people would put the population density at like 0.86. 0.86 people per square kilometer. And also keep in mind that 1 square kilometer is roughly 247 acres. So a planet of that size could actually support 1 million people before things start getting crowded or there's a loss in resources from everybody mining.
Oh.
Because I think at 1 million people, that puts you at, I don't know, 8 people per square kilometer.
Now, are you basing that on like real world figures?
Right.
Okay, because I have to keep in mind that, you know, in the real world, I cannot wave my hand and pick up an amount of dirt that would be equivalent to about 10 tons at a time.
True, but we also don't have anti-grav technology. Yet.
Yeah.
Yet?
Hopefully yet.
I'm doing the Mr. Burns thing with my fingers, just thinking about it.
When we have a unified model, then I suppose we can work on anti-gravity.
Yeah. I mean, we only recently discovered the existence of gravity waves, and so we're still making advancements in gravity. Let's slow down here.
Okay, we went into the math. 1 million people split up between 29% of the land mass would actually put 27.44 people per square kilometer.
Yeah, you sent me that whole diagram, or not diagram, but you sent me the pictures showing the different scales.
Oh yeah, I also had a picture of the scales, yeah. That's 9 acres per person.
But you also have to keep in mind that you're going to have the same reasons for why people conglomerate in certain areas as you would do in real life as well. You know, like there are resources here, but there aren't any here that I can use.
Right. Well, the whole reason I did the math was to see, you know, the chances of, if you like run off way far away, the chances of actually seeing somebody else, and the fewer people there are, the smaller chance that's going to be of seeing people.
I wonder
just kind of put things in perspective.
I wonder if in those first couple of weeks, if we really are going to be tied to having to live around the Ark ship, or how long will it take us before we can be independent enough to just go on the other side of the planet by ourselves? I guess as a
I think
group.
the experience will vary greatly between alpha and beta and the final release, just because they'll look at how long it takes us to do certain things and change things accordingly.
Also depend. I mean, when you look at those gameplay things, like it also depends on how many people are in your alpha. Like the experience of 100 people in an alpha is definitely going to be different from the experience of you let 1,000 people in. How those 100 people, if you have 100 people, I think that they're more likely to work together. But if you have 1,000, 5,000 people, it kind of changes the dynamic of how skills work, of how those things affect gameplay.
True.
Yeah, Yamamushi brought up the picture I linked in chat. The big green in the background, that's roughly the size of Earth. And then the slate color is the moon. The red one's a 100-kilometer radius planet, and the blue one is a 30 radius kilometer planet. Just for, like, scale. And that little green speck on the red ball is an 8-kilometer cube.
So their space station.
Right. So that leads me to believe that the planet in the trailer is about 100-kilometer radius.
It's decent size. Still won't be classified as a planet, I believe.
True.
It's a planet in this game.
Just like how that many other planets are classified as planets in their games, respectively.
Yes.
I just have to wonder
Right.
if the starting planet is going to kind of, if the planet that we see in the gameplay footage is, if that is the starting planet, are the land masses traversable without having to cross water? Or are there continents that are separated by bodies of water? And if they are separated by bodies of water, how do you cross them in those first couple of weeks of the game? Or do you have to
can
build
we just swim infinitely?
Can you swim? Is there endurance? Is that a survival aspect of the game? Like, will you drown without endurance to swim across the ocean? Will there actually, in the
Can
first
you
couple
make
of weeks of the
boats?
game, yeah, will there be boats? Can people build underwater? Will there be underwater vehicles, submarines?
I would own a sailboat just to say I owned a sailboat.
It's kind of weird too, because things like that might only be useful in the first couple of weeks of the game. Until when people get spaceships and they're able to fly over and fly into space, how much time will people really invest in building submarines?
Nonsense. I will bring my sailboat with me everywhere.
Yeah, I'd love a submarine. I'd love to just have a submersible vehicle everywhere.
I will build a mega capital ship just so I can sail my sailboat in space.
You just make a submarine that can also traverse into space.
I got a feeling that somebody's going to build something. I've built a ship that can go everywhere. What do you mean everywhere? I mean everywhere.
Can you go into the sun?
I guarantee you that somebody will be smart enough to figure it out.
Anybody see that video this week? I saw it on Reddit. It was like, it's actually extremely difficult to fire a rocket into the sun from Earth. In order to go into, yeah, because in order to go into the sun, if you were to just to launch off the Earth, depending on the direction you were going, like at the very least, if you went from the opposite direction across that Earth is orbiting the sun, so if you went opposite of Earth's orbit, you would need to go something like 38 kilometers a second. So you have to slow down quite a bit. You have to go extremely fast off planet Earth to slow down enough so that you're not moving relative to the sun, like in an orbit. And then you have to fire into the sun. It actually takes less fuel if you were to fire a rocket out to like Pluto, because the speed that you would have to slow down to is, or like the speed that you would need to fire off to slow your ship relative to the sun is much slower because you're further away from the sun and the orbit distance is much bigger. It's like if you were on Mercury and you wanted to fire a rocket into the sun, you would need an extremely powerful rocket to do it, which is counterintuitive because you're so close to the sun, so it doesn't make sense why that is. Like on the surface, like you don't really you can't conceptualize why that is, but when you think about it, it makes more sense.
Well, that depends
Sorry.
if you're trying to go straight into the sun or if you don't mind taking orbit into the sun.
Yeah, that too.
Because you can just modify the orbit you're taking so that it takes you into the sun. But that also
Slowly,
would take
yeah.
a bunch of fuel.
Oh no, we have delved into science!
Yeah, well, this is clearly going off on a tangent here. I think it's a good time to wrap up the episode. I will stick around and chat afterwards.
Yeah, well, if you think that's going off on the tangent, obviously you have not read my posts on the antimatter thread.
Oh, I think I did read a bit of it. Some of those threads, like, I
Which
just
one were you
gloss over,
posting?
and I'm like,
I remember
My
like
eyes
two
gloss
people
over
going
when I
into
read those
tangents.
threads.
yeah, people start getting into like astrophysics, and like, I just think to myself, I don't think the game's going to be that complicated.
Just matter annihilating other matter. It's fine. That's an antimatter reactor.
Yeah.
Then make gamma solar panels.
I mean, we're talking about a game that's going to have faster than light travel. I think that they can sacrifice some realism.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to get really, really picky about the game. They'll be looking at the planet and they'll be all, those types of trees wouldn't grow in that altitude. I don't think that this is very accurate. Like, it's just a game. Just calm down, everyone.
Well,
They could always just go cut all the trees down above that altitude.
These leaves are broadleafed, and that doesn't make any sense for this climate.
I think it's going to come down to we're going to look at those types of people and say, go punch yourself.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna go make the post in the forums.
Yeah, I'm gonna go complain about the trees. Like, I don't think that those thin leaf trees, those pine trees, really make sense in that climate zone. There's not enough desert on that planet. Too much trees.
I can't say anything about this. I know a lot about high energy physics. I know nothing about plant biology.
So astrophysics, not astrobiology.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that exciting topic, I think that we'll just I think we can wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. And yeah, catch us
If
every
you have any
Saturday
questions on
Saturday.
astrophysics, ask Gordon.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
Forward all of your homework to Wardian.
Not homework. Don't want to do the
Mask can be
homework.
graded.
All right. Well, see everyone next week.
Have a good one.
I'm
Later.
Master Dreadstone,
Bye.
and goodbye.